Welcome to the Life-Giving Leader Podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Life-Giving Leader Podcast. I know it's been a hot minute since you heard me. I know we did a little one-off with my buddy Josh Turner as we talked about the 1010 project and what we're doing there to serve pastors. But this is just the regularly scheduled, kind of unscheduled, Life-Giving Leader Podcast. And this is Season 2. So those of you that are hanging on and have joined me for Season 2, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I do expect more consistency here over these next few months because now the book is out, and so my life is somewhat returning to a version of normal that will be helpful for these kind of things. And anyway, so Life-Giving Leader Podcast, we're back. Season 2. Season 2 is all going to be about interviewing, for the most part, leaders who are leading something they didn't start. And my goal in this was to create a season where the content of the book, the principles that we talk about, the ideas that I bring up, can be run through the ringer of real life examples. That's part of why I did, 4 chapters on case studies of people who in different spheres who've had to step in and lead something they didn't start. And so this first episode will be no different, and I'm excited to have Clay Scroggins with us for episode 1. Of Season 2. Clay is a longtime friend. He has led now in 4 different areas in North Point Ministries and working with Andy Stanley. And so hearing him fresh off of, about a year into leading Buckhead Church and how he's doing that and navigating that, because he didn't start any of that. He stepped in to follow a leader that is actually the senior leader. And we get to glean a lot of helpful information from him about how he did that. So that's coming up in this episode. I've got people lined up, pastors who took over for their dads and people who took over as CEOs for a company of somebody that they had worked for, or brand new folks stepping into spaces that already existed. So that's all coming up this season. I'm so grateful for that. If you're listening and you haven't picked up your copy of Leading Things You Didn't Start, I would encourage you to do that. It's out now. Share it with your friends. Share it with people. I just posted on Instagram a little video I did around who this book is for. And for those of you listening, I'm gonna spill my candy in the lobby, give you an insight right now. But here's the 3 people it's for, 3 groups. Number 1, it's for those of you who are in this situation, freshly in the last 6 months or so into a role. It could be a team that you're leading or just being a part of a new team that already exists, that you are new to the team. You might be following a position of somebody who they were loved or they were hated, and you're following that. This book's for you. The leaders who've taken over and transition and stepping in to lead something that didn't start, this is for you. The second group is for faith-based leaders as an onboarding tool. So say you're the pastor of a church or you're the executive pastor, and you get to bring on new staff. Whenever you bring them on, how cool would it be for you to send them out, a T-shirt from the church, your lanyard, a Yeti mug or something, and then this book. This book has a resource that says, hey, we actually really believe in you being successful and gaining influence from the moment you start here. We want to help you do that. So here's a resource that will help you gain influence from the moment you walk in the doors versus losing it. And so sending that to him a couple weeks out would be amazing and very thoughtful. So that would be another group that I believe this could be used for. And then finally, last but not least, and I worked with a lot of college students, and I'm talking to a lot who are about to graduate in 2 months. And this idea is resonating with them so much. So if you've got college graduates in your life, go buy a box of these, have them ready to hand out as gifts to those who are about to step into the workforce. So that's who I wrote this for. I am super grateful for all the comments and the support that I've received over the last few months of this coming out. And so this whole series, this season, is going to be interviews with people that you will come to know and come to love like I do. And I pray that this is super helpful for you. Again, if you want to keep up with me, you can go to @Tyler Reagin on social media, and then tylerreagin.com. We've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to talk in the next week or two about some of the new products that are coming out of the Life Giving company when it comes to coaching and consulting and some of the things that the team that's being built to help serve kingdom stuff. And so I'm really excited about that. So that's coming up. And other than that, I'm also very excited about warm weather and golf in my future. So those of you who were tracking, last time I think we talked, I was still in that mid threes, 3.5 handicap. I just got a revision 2 days ago. I've had a couple rough rounds, and I'm currently at 3.9. 3.9. So those of you who are wondering, who could not sleep tonight because you were wondering where we are on my handicap, that's where we are right now. So moving on from that, and speaking of great golfers, Clay Scroggins, a longtime friend. He's now the lead pastor at Buckhead Church, author of a couple books, got a new one coming out next year, but the last, probably his first book, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge, was just a bestseller. People love it. It's super helpful for all of us in leadership. And Clay has been a longtime friend. I actually worked for him. I've worked with him. We've been peers. I've had him at things that I've gotten to do. And so we've been friends. I've coached his kids in flag football and soccer. And so I was really excited to kick off season 2 with this whole conversation with Clay Scroggins about leading things he didn't start. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Clay Scroggins. Well, welcome back to the Life Giving Leader podcast, season 2, kicking off right here with one of my longtime ministry partners in crime, Clay Scroggins.
Partners. I love that.
By the way, Clay, those that can't see you, I see that you got a warm vest on today, and you're wearing a little. I always forget what you call these things. It's kind of
a gator or a
gator.
Buff.
Yeah, buff. It almost looked like a bandana for a minute. Let's be real clear.
Which I thought about.
I thought you were just going bandana, but it's you got to do what you got to do to be safe in these times.
Yeah, well, I was wearing it. I got it in the summer at a camp that we went to, and in the summer I was like, oh my goodness, this is like so hot.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, man, in the winter, this is going to be really nice.
Yeah.
It is like
almost looks like an ascot. What are those? Ascot or
ascot? Yeah, like a yeah.
You're looking sharp, to say the least. But I'm excited to have Clay here. Clay has transitioned 2 or 3 times within North Point Ministries, and so we're going to talk all about this season, leading things you didn't start, as we kind of launch into this new book that I just had out. And I wanted to spend a few weeks on the podcast talking to leaders who have done this and going, hey, does this work? I mean, is this helpful? Is that one of those things? And Clay has been a great example of that. So for those of you that don't know Clay, I'm going to let him take a second and give you a little update of who he is and where he is currently.
Well, first of all, Tyler, I'm so excited about our time. This is fun. I feel like we have to have moments like this to reconnect, which is kind of a bummer, but awesome. I'm super excited about the book. I've told you that since you mentioned the idea of leading things you didn't start. I just thought it's such a, in a way, it feels like a real niche, but in another way, it feels like, isn't that like 90% of
right
what everybody's doing? So I just feel like it's going to be so helpful in so many different ways. So love the concept.
Thank you, sir.
My personal bio, I was born in Florida, raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They play football there. They do there. And I moved to Atlanta to go to Georgia Tech. I studied engineering, hated it, realized I was not good at it. It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Got involved with North Point Community Church as a college student. I was a volunteer. Loved it. I think that's where I really decided, man, ministry, specifically church, working at a church is what I want to do with my life. So had a very tearful discussion with my parents about it because I thought I was going to be a major disappointment to them. And the next day, my dad woke up and I'll never forget, he said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. If I were in your shoes, that is not what I would do. But you got to do what you think God wants you to do, and we will help you however we can. So it was like, I love the honesty of it. I'm like, all right.
Clay, have you heard Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights book?
No, but I've had multiple people say,
it's really good. But he says a very similar thing about what his dad said to him when he was supposed to be the lawyer. Like that was the thing. And then he just felt this change of heart to do acting, and he fully expected what what your dad said, and it was a very similar conversation.
Well, people, if I had a dollar for every time somebody confused me for McConaughey, I mean,
I honestly thought that's who I was talking to.
Yeah, you're like,
wait a minute, cancel this. I thought this was.
Yeah. So I moved to Dallas, Texas to go to seminary after I finished school and finished college, and met my wife out there, which is the best thing that happened. Started working with North Point Ministries in 2004. Went on staff in 2004. I worked in student ministry for 7 or 8 years, and I bounced around. You and I first interacted because I was the high school director at Brownsbridge in 2006.
Well, before that was when we started Athens Church. It was around that 04, 05 time, and we just got to know each other a little bit.
That's right. We had some mutual friends that you were working with, and then we both were a part of starting this campus up in the suburbs in Cumming, Georgia. And I went from there to move to North Point to lead the high school ministry at North Point for 4 years, moved back to Brownsbridge as a campus pastor for 4 years, went to North Point for 4 years as a campus pastor, and then now I've been at Buckhead Church for the last 2 years as the campus pastor as well. So
what's it feel like being in your 80s these days? Like when you describe that didn't sound like a lot longer than holy smokes.
But I feel 27, which is great.
So one of the best parts of your story is when you were in Dallas, you met someone who became your wife.
Met my boo. Met my wife, Jenny, in 2005. And we now have 5 kids, 11 down to 3.
Yeah.
And the oldest one, I feel confident is going to do great things with her life. The other 4... when I say that
she's been that way from the beginning, though, hadn't she, Clay?
Totally. Like she's been. I mean, parenting is never easy, but she has been a pretty easy child to raise thus far.
Yeah.
And the other 4, just no clue what's going to happen with their life.
They're awesome kids. Let me ask you this, Clay. I had a podcast with Bob Goff last night, and one of the things we ended up talking about was feeling the room. And he was talking about how he's admired that I have an ability to fill a room out and understand what's going on. But then we talked about feeling out the room for your kids and for your family. Like, in other words, like, how's it going? Like what's something you've done, just before we dive into this other content, as a dad, to feel out your marriage and your parenting? How do you feel the room for them so that you're trying to stay engaged with that? That's
a great question. I am not, one of my strengths is not empathy. So I'm not wired that way. It takes effort for me. So one of the things I've learned, I like the barometer illustration of how the barometer is this instrument that can sense the weather that's coming.
Yeah.
It's not even telling you about what's the weather right now. I mean, it is telling you about the pressure right now, but they use it as a forecasting tool. In our marriage, Jenny is definitely the barometer. I mean, she just feels so much more than I do and just senses so much more than I do. So I really lean on her for that. So, I mean, I would say the best thing that if I've done anything good, when I'm at my best, I'm listening to her in that way.
That's good.
I mean, even like I was in our men's group I'm in a men's group through our church, and on Monday morning we're meeting, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, let's do a marriage check-in, like scale of 1 to 10. How's it going?" And we all kind of went around and shared, and we were all kind of laughing at the end, being like, "You know what? This is actually kind of useless to do this. If we really want to know, we need to just ask our spouse, scale of 1 to 10, where are things?" Because they'll tell us where we actually are. So I feel like that's what I am trying to do, is lean on her for that. And then as a dad, she's so great about telling me.
Yeah.
She said at the beginning of this school year, she was like, "Hey, I really think you need to do something with Jake, our 9-year-old, then 8-year-old, I guess. He's turning 10 in March. But you need to do something with him that some kind of father-son thing. Why don't you get some dads together?"
Yeah.
So I got some dads that go to our school and go to our church together, and we meet once a month. And at first I was like, "Oh, that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of energy." And what I've learned through that is, and we're kind of using Robert Lewis's book, Raising a Modern Day Knight, as
Okay.
kind of the spine of the group. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's his favorite part of the month, and he looks forward to it more than anything else. And I win just because I am doing it. And it, he's not going to remember the lessons. He's not, but it's that whole, thing that we've always heard, that they're really not going to remember what you taught them, what you said. They're going to remember who you are and what you've done. So I'm trying to be as faithful as I can be with that. But
That's good.
I need grace, and I feel like a failure more times than not.
Yeah. But that's parenting, right? Like it's, and it's leadership, honestly, Clay. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like a lot of people, I've always believed this, like the reason a lot of people don't talk about leadership is because leadership is an ideal that they can't live up to.
Wow.
And so, but if we decided everything like that, we would never do anything. And so like, I know that like, even as I write or release the second book, as you do the books you've done, like we can't live up to that every day, but we're going to try. Like, and I think you and I both know when you build into a relationship before you have to make the withdrawals, it allows that grace to come because you've been loving on them and caring for them well. So let's switch to leadership a little bit, Clay. It's one of the things you and I've always enjoyed talking about. You were my boss first season. That was when I described one of my worst seasons. And I'm just kidding.
Well, honestly, as you were saying that, I was like, that's really cool that I didn't really like being your boss. Not that I just like being your friend. We were friends before that. So that's never a fun thing. You were so awesome. I feel like you were strong and had opinions, but you were also very kind and gracious to me. And I feel like the fact that you and I are still friends
I love it.
Awesome.
Well, and it was fun, but I'm also, you and I've talked about this before, and I talked about this pretty openly. Like, I had spent a couple serious meetings with Andy and Lane going, hey, I'd like to be a campus pastor one day. I'd like to whatever. And then the day that they announced, that Lane's leaving, and they're like, and Clay's coming. And I was like, what? Like, that stinks. Not because it's Clay, but because it was something that I potentially had wanted. And I remember Lane come into my office that day, and he was like, are you okay? I was like, I'm just trying to figure out the disappointment that I'm feeling. And, I've told you that it had nothing to do with you. It was all to do with the role and something I felt like I was supposed to do. What's beautiful about the whole story, what you even just described, you were the best person for that job. What was even more beautiful in my story was that wasn't supposed to be my job. Like, and I think if I had gotten that job when I wanted it, quote unquote, I don't know that I would have left. And what God's done and the doors he's opened for me since then, and the things I'm doing now are way more right down the centerpiece of what I love doing. And so, but I remember very specifically after about 2 days of just walking through the grief or the disappointment or whatever the thing is, I remember just this click in my heart. This is before you ever even walked in the building was, I don't get it, but I do know this. I'm going to do everything in my power to make Clay the best campus pastor that I know. Like, wow. That's what I remember thinking. And so by the time you got there, I'd already dealt with all that. But that's part of ministry, right? And part of leadership as you walk through seasons. I know you've had times too where you're like, that's kind of what I would have rather done. Or and you just kind of rest in the fact that God, and I learned this even a few years ago again, oftentimes no's are just upgraded yeses down the road. And I just have to lean into that. So anyway, but I loved it.
I mean, for one, thank you for sharing all that. That shows your security, and that's just really, that means a lot to me. Thank you. But also, I think you just exposed one of the more difficult things of leading something you didn't start, which is sometimes you walk into the role and there are people that you're now leading that don't really want you to be there.
Yep.
That's, it's the times when you're when you're, one of the big things you got to do in those situations, you've got to assess what kind of situation am I walking into.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm not trying to jump the gun on where this conversation is going to go, but as you assess, when you're walking into a situation where you're the savior in a way, where, something hadn't been going well before and people are like, oh my gosh, this has got to change. And then a change happens. And then you come into that's in a way, it's an easier spot to be in than when things were going all right. And
Right.
we were, and we weren't exactly looking for somebody new, or I thought I was going to be the one to take that spot.
Yeah.
Those are two very different dynamics that you
Yeah.
experience.
And you're exactly right. There's a huge evaluation is the first part of the whole book. It's the whole first section really is.
Love
And one of the things, Clay, I would love to hear from you is like, you knew about the Buckhead thing for a few months, right? Before you stepped down there. What were one or two things that you tried to do from an evaluation perspective before you ever walked in the building? I think so many leaders think, okay, when I get there, I'm going to do this and this and this. What I like to encourage leaders is before you say yes to the job, you've got to do some evaluation and some interview. Go, hey, you can't lie to me about, like, you can't cover this up. Like, how are we financially? How are we as a team? What do I need to know before I walk in those doors? What was one or two things that you tried to kind of get a grasp on before you walked down and got into that new role?
I definitely the people involved, doing as great of a job as I could do, listening. That's not my instinct is to walk in and go, all right, here's the 5 things we need to do.
Yeah.
So, walking in and giving myself that season of time to say, hey, my objective in the first month, the first 3 months, however long you choose, probably 2 weeks is too short.
Yeah.
6 months is too long. At some point you got to start pulling the trigger and going, all right, here's where we're going. Here's what we're going to do. But really trying to listen to the people and find out what is going well. What do you love about what's happening and what do you not love? And then there were a couple of I met with all the people that were going to be my direct reports, and a couple of the conversations, there were some elephants at least an elephant in each one of those rooms that
none of the people were elephants. You're not describing humans in this situation.
I was leading elephants. They were large human. Yeah. They were elephants in the room. And
right.
My style is to just directly talk about that.
Yeah.
And so I did. And in one case, it went really well. In another case, it didn't go very well. But there were 2 situations where I was going to be now leading people that, in my opinion, didn't have a great reputation in our organization.
Yeah.
And so the way I handled that is I just was real upfront and honest and said, as soon as we got together, we sit down and talk and, hey, tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me a little bit about you, how long you've been here, and I was like, well, hey, neither one of us chose this, but we're going to be working together. I want it to go really, really well.
Yeah.
So I applied, I kind of have a personal strategy of how I try to handle hard conversations. I try to affirm upfront, affirm what I can affirm, which is, I'm excited about what could be, even if that's the smallest thing you can affirm. And then to ask as many questions as possible, everything I just mentioned about, tell me about what's going well, what's not, to acknowledge what you heard. All right, well, here's what I've heard so far. And then part of that acknowledging step is acknowledging the awkwardness of it. And to acknowledge, in this case, I was saying, hey, I also need to tell you this. Here's what I've heard about working with you.
Yeah.
And I would love to know, what have you heard about working with me? But I got to tell you, this is what I've heard about you, that people haven't had the greatest experiences. And here's why. And that might be unfair. The great news is, don't shoot me. I'm just telling you this is what I've heard. And in one case, what you're looking for in that moment is you're looking for awareness. You want to hear that somebody goes, I can see how somebody would feel that way, and I hate hearing that, and I want to figure out how to fix that. And then I had 2 situations that are very memorable. One, there was a lot of awareness and a lot of ownership, and then one, there was a lot of anger and denial and blame. And
but I was hurt, Clay. I mean, I had to just be honest with you about it. Oh, wait. This is
not you.
Oh,
and this person ended up eventually stepping down and saying, hey, I'm going to go do something different. And honestly, it was good for both of us. But I think speaking directly to what might be awkward, but also really being hopeful and giving people a fresh chance and a fresh start, I think that's a big part of the evaluation.
Yeah. One of the people I interviewed for the case studies was Buzz Williams at Texas A&M, who was on day 100 or so of stepping into his fourth major basketball program.
Wow.
And one of the things we talked at length about is how do you get players who didn't sign up for you on board with your style and leadership and culture? Yep. What was maybe something that you learned, Clay, or what is something you tried to get not just the one or two players, but the team to go, you know what? Because you replaced Andy, like Andy had been there. Like that's not a small task. That's and every time you step into a new team, or an existing team, you're following either a leader that was loved or not loved. You're following, maybe it's a new position, but there's still an example or a label or something that you're going to have to step into. But part of that, Clay, is you followed somebody who's still the senior leader of this organization. Yep. And people love certain parts of that. How did you get them on board with you being a part of that team?
Well, I'm not saying this in false humility, but this is genuine honesty. I'm about 20 months in, and I'm still
doing it,
working to get people on board.
Yeah.
It has not been easy. And, you just find this is, I guess, the fourth new job I've had where I've stepped into leading a team that I inherited. And this one has been the hardest one. This one has been the most challenging. And, a lot of it is the context, following Andy is, as I interjected as you were talking, it's not a hard task. It's genuinely impossible. The guy's he's a legend, and he's still the big boss, the El Jefe in our organization. So, who would I rather have working here? The one who can make all the decisions, or the one who's got to get approval to make decisions. So it really is an impossible, plus he's 61 at the time, 61, 62 years old, and has so much more experience than me. So I'm still trying to get people on board. The pandemic had a lot to do with that. I mean, 6 months into the job, or maybe 8 months into the job, the whole world changed. So that made everything more challenging. But I think what you touched on is that it's all about trust. That's what I have been trying to think about in every new job. As I look back, I don't know that I had the word at the time, but I'm trying to build trust. Everything operates, it rises and falls based on trust. And I've got to figure out how to get these people to trust me. And that's not always easy to do.
Yeah, there's a section, Clay, that I have in the book, and the book's coming your way, so you'll have it here shortly. But the implementation section, I talk about 4D modeling. When you go somewhere, I was at Disney last week, and we went to the Muppet Show, and they spray water on it. Like, it's the 4D, like I experienced all of it. But it's the idea too of you got to model what's trustworthy. Like, what's the thing that you're saying, hey, this is what I believe about culture. This is where I believe we should go. But if you as a leader just say that and don't do it, it's almost an impossible task. Have you noticed that in your own leadership of going, I've got to go first. I've got to step into this space and show them what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And there's that delicate balance of, there's a pendulum that swings between, I want to listen really well to these people and find out where do they want to go. And I want everybody to be on board, and I want everybody to know their seat on the bus and feel confident in it and feel like this rowing in the same direction, all that. And then there's this other pendulum of people respond to vision, and people respond when you lay out something clear and say, here is where we're going. And that delicate balance of living out the posture of openness and listening and care, and I want a genuine desire to have every person fully bought into what's happening, and then that also the awareness that the way leadership works is somebody's got to be out in front saying, here is where we're going, like it or not, we're gonna take this hill. That's my current challenge on that, is how to model that middle way, because there really is a middle way. It's not one or the other. It's both. It's being in a posture to listen, a posture of openness, but also casting very clear vision that, hey, here's where we're headed. Like it or not, this is where we're going.
It seems like there's a scripture like that, like grace and truth. So I don't know, something along those lines seem to find.
Yeah, it does. It feels
you can't
a lot
just
like
have one or the other. Potentially,
right.
You need both. All right, I know we're going to wrap up, and I want to do a couple lightning questions with you. But just if you're willing to be honest, what was one of your fears as you walked into this role?
Well, I'm an Enneagram 7, so I like fun. I don't like hard things and pain, discomfort. No one really does, but I run from those things. And I also want to be liked and accepted and approved. So part of my greatest fear, and this is why self-awareness is so important. I have so much to grow in and knowing more about the way I'm wired. But I know my biggest fear in almost every situation is, are they going to accept me? Are they going to reject me? Or are they going to like me? Are they going to approve of me? And you can't grow again, there's a middle way to that as well. You can't be so chained to that it cripples you or paralyzes you. But you can't also be just dismissive of that. I mean, we trust people that we like. We trust people that we care about. We trust people that we believe in.
And we want to work with people we like, right?
Totally. So there is an element where I can't just be like, well, forget it. I don't care. I don't care if they like me or not. That you can't lead that way. So not letting that, that fear's such an interesting thing, because it's, in a lot of ways, fear is a good thing. I mean, it keeps us from playing in traffic. It keeps us from doing dumb things. It keeps us alive. And so we got to let it in the car, but we definitely can't let it drive. And so I think that's what I've really tried to focus on with that fear is I got to pay attention to it. I've got to know, when am I reacting out of it? And then how do I not let it drive? And so what my guiding star, my North Star, really that Hebrews 12 idea of fixing your eyes on Jesus for me is really trying to figure out what is best for people and what do I want for them. And I can withstand somebody, you deal with this as a parent. You can withstand a child being frustrated at you if you're doing something that is for their good, even if they don't see it. And so I really try to keep that out in front, that, hey, to be most like Jesus, it means loving these people. And, Lencioni's latest book, The Motive, speaks, it's all over that, that this idea that leadership is not a reward, it really is a responsibility, and keeping your eyes focused on, hey, we're here to love others and serve others and do hard things because we love others. That's what I'm trying to, I'm trying to not let that fear drive me, but I'm trying to let that North.
Yeah, I think that's so important for us, Clay, as we leave. One of the things that I know that I loved about you coming to Brownsbridge is you brought fresh eyes. That is one of the greatest gifts that I believe new staff bring to the table, but also when a leader that steps into something they didn't start, but you're only going to be new for so long, right? The elephant in the room, you don't notice when you've been there a certain amount of time.
You become the old idea.
Yeah. So how have you seen that actually be a catalyst for Buckhead Church as you've stepped in with fresh eyes?
That's been a real challenge for me, because though I have fresh eyes to this community, I'm so integrated in what we're doing. And so it's not like I was a total outsider. In fact, I was anything but that. But and then the other thing is, this is the third time I've stepped into a job as a campus pastor within our organization. So there was a big part of this job that about 6 months in, I was like, why do I feel like I'm in Groundhog's Day, like waking up, like, here we go again, So I really had to lean on Cheryl Batchelder, former CEO of Popeyes, and for a while, Pier 1 Imports, even.
Also a case study in the book.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Well, Cheryl she is one of the most tremendous leaders I have ever met. Yeah. And she is a part of our church. And, we brought her into our team right toward the beginning of all of the global pandemic. And I will never forget her saying, I said, Cheryl, what is the biggest mistake? You sit on a lot of boards. What's the mistake you're seeing boards make? or even leadership teams or CEOs. And she said, we're all tempted to think we have the best idea and the right idea, but you have to convince yourself to believe that the best idea does not exist in your boardroom, but it exists with your customers. Mm. And that's been really helpful to go, you know what? These people know this church better than I do. Yes, I have fresh eyes, and yes, I am seeing it in a bit of a different way because I haven't been a part of what's been happening here in Buckhead. Really leaning into them and asking, and believing that somewhere in there, I mean, there's a lot of bad ideas in all of us, but the right idea is probably sitting within the people that that are really leading.
Yeah. I think about this day and age, Clay, and you've talked about it a couple of times, but your second book, How to Lead in a World of Distraction, I think I said that right. Who knew that was kind of coming right before, before. And even though it's not just, I think some people say, well, it's not even a distraction. It's just a thing. It's just this pandemic that just it's a massive disruption as well as a distraction. What's one or two things that you've been able to pull from the book that, the content that has let you lead in this season and keep the train on the tracks?
Well, the premise of the book is that we are at our best when we're the most emotionally healthy. That is such a integral part of leadership, and it's often an overlooked part of leadership. But the best leaders are the most emotionally healthy leaders. And distraction is the greatest culprit, the greatest enemy that gets in our way of becoming emotionally healthy. That we have so many distractions around us, and in some ways, the last season has helped us turn down the distractions because people said that about their family. I don't know how many people have said, "Oh my gosh, it's been so good for our family because we've taken more walks and
we ride bikes together."
I mean, that you couldn't find a bike in Atlanta for
I don't know if you can yet.
Exactly. So that's been a good part of it. But as you said, it's not really. We will always find something to distract ourselves from having to pay attention to the pain in our soul. And we want to run from it. We want to do anything but having to deal with it. And this season has caused a lot. I mean, there is a lot that we've had to mourn and grieve. Everyone's had something that they have lost, a graduation, a wedding, a anniversary, God forbid, even the loss of a loved one in this season, and even the loss of not being able to have the kind of funeral that you've wanted to have. So there's been so much loss that this has taken a very significant toll on the health of our soul. And so we've got to decide, am I going to continue to put the habits and the routines, the rhythms in place to be able to turn down the noise low enough and long enough to pay attention to what's going on in our soul?
I love that.
One thing that's just wild about tragedy, about disruption, about suffering, about crises is that they have a way of violently putting to halt the habits in our life and causes us to start new ones oftentimes too. So we have to know that the normal rhythms that I had in my life that were keeping me healthy, I can't forsake those. And for some people, it's trying them for the first time. But for others, it's going back to those things, silence and solitude, and really trying to focus on taking Sabbath and making sure you're getting rest. The delineation between work and home has gotten so blurry. So we've got to be more diligent to turn down turn down the noise so we can pay attention to what's going on inside of us. We have to be more diligent now than we probably ever had to be before.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of relevance in this season for it.
Yeah, for sure. And we're honestly, all the things you've written so far, how to lead when you're not in charge as well. They're just valuable. It's fun to have you with First Orlando talking about that. I've heard great things from your conversation there. Okay. Couple quick lightning questions. And then we'll wrap this thing up.
Oh, you remember, I think in Sports Center, they used to do at the end of Sports Center, they used to do the Budweiser hot seat.
Yes, I do remember that.
This is the Budweiser hot
seat. Is it. This is the Budweiser. If Budweiser wants to sponsor it, I'd probably be open to see. I don't work at a church anymore. I'm allowed to do things like that. All right. So best marriage advice you and Jenny have ever been given?
Oh, gosh.
Buy a hot tub? Because you guys love that hot tub, man.
We do. We are big fans of hot tubs. Yeah, I mean, I think
as a family, let's just
exactly. Really trying to get on the same side of problems, sitting on the same side of the booth, and not putting the stuff in between us. I mean, just remembering. I mean, it's our struggle is not against flesh and blood. that passage that Paul wrote. It's just so profound. I think really trying to remember, no, we fell in love. We love each other. I'm for her. I want her best. She wants my best. We've got something that's in the way. So let's get on the same side and let's try to figure it out together. That's
That's great.
That's the one we've been trying to apply recently, because there's been so many decisions. I mean, decisions about school and everything.
Where are you going to get a bike? I mean, those are big decisions. Favorite movie of all time?
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's not your fault, Will. It's not your fault.
I just started crying as you said that.
Stop it, Sean.
I loved it too, because our 3 years in seminary in Boston, and just hearing that thick Boston accent, man, it takes us back to a special place. Carrie always worked with a lady at Pottery Barn named Mary Antonuccio. That was that's my best Boston accent.
Pottery Barn.
Best leadership idea that's helped you.
Best leadership idea.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. God. I would say really trying to bring solutions to things. It's so easy to point out problems.
Right.
Really, I think Frank Blake, former CEO of Home Depot, who he's been around our world a lot. He goes to our church as well. Is just a phenomenal guy. And he told me one time, hey, that feeling that you have in meetings when you shoot down an idea, it's a power trip. It makes you feel powerful. Yeah. Something about being able to say, oh, here's why that won't work. But I'm a fairly positive person, but this season I've had to reapply that and refocus on that, hey, I've got to bring solutions and not just here's why that won't work.
Yeah. And your words weigh a lot in a room.
That's right.
And that's good to pay attention to. Last one, this one's gonna be hard for you, I think. If you could only listen to one band and their entire, you can have the whole catalog, Clay, but only one band, let's say for the rest of 2021, who would that be?
Well, it would be between Outkast and Counting Crows.
I mean, clearly those match perfectly.
I would probably have to say Counting Crows, but it might be Outkast. I mean,
shoot me straight. Last time you heard, you picked a Counting Crows song to listen to.
I mean, in the last month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Long December. I played that a lot at the beginning of the year because it
felt like a long December. So I love it. For those of you that are young and don't know Counting Crows, you are missing out. One of the best albums, August and everything after, years and years ago. Mr. Jones, you name it. We could go through the list, but incredible album. Clay, I really am glad we got some time together. I'm glad we got to put this down on paper, if you will. And I'm really I've always been inspired watching you lead, because even though you have days and you're honest about the heartache and the hard parts of leadership, you keep showing up in the arena, and you've done it in such an incredible and honoring way. So thanks for being a part of the Life Giving Leader podcast. If people want to keep up with you, what's the best way for them to, I know you got a new book in about a year coming out. So, just staying engaged with what you got going on. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah. clayscroggins.com. You can sign up to get, we do, some somewhat frequent free leadership
That's
stuff.
the best way to describe it, and it's somewhat frequent.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I just want to say to you, thank you. I respect you a lot, and to everyone listening, wherever you are in life, don't quit.
Yeah.
You might need to change jobs, but don't be a COVID casualty. God is on the move, whether we see him or not. And I really believe that hope is a powerful thing.
Agreed.
So keeping our eyes fixed on what he is still up to is the only thing we have these days. So I'm really honored to get to be on it. Thank you.
Clay. If you, again, heard that at the end, you can go to @Clay Scroggins on social, and then clayscroggins.com to find out more. So thank you for your patience. Thanks for being a part of the Life Giving Leader family. And again, over these next few weeks, I'm going to introduce you to some people who have done this well, but I'm also going to connect you to some of the new things we believe in at Life Giving Company and ways that we can serve you guys and your churches, your nonprofits, or your businesses to hopefully grow the kingdom influence that God's given you. So thanks for being a part this week, and thanks for kicking off season 2 with me. I'll see you next week.